Hey guys, so welcome back to my channel for another video. This time it's not going to be a battle report, instead it's going to be a discussion about the Vermin Swarm Army book. So I face Vermin Swarm not that regularly, but still just from time to time, and I must say that every single match that I play against them, I don't particularly experience it as an enjoyable game, which is sad, I would say. And I think it's mostly due to the fact that the army book has been written in such a way that it just blank out circumvents some kind of the main rulebook rules at times, or it doesn't really follow the design of other armies that other armies adhere to. So still, I would give a shout out to the designers, because it is probably a lot of work to get an army book just together even. So still, credit where credit is due. But without further ado, I'll just go through things that I would change in the Vermin Swarm Army book. So the title page is fine. So let's go to the army model rules. Safety in numbers is a rule that has been around for a long time. And it dated back to an edition where units used to be an average size of like 16 guys, 20 guys for infantry, and a big unit would have like 30 guys, and that's it. So since then we came a long way. The game has scaled, and not only in complexity, but also in numbers. So the numbers in safety and numbers got even bigger. So I feel that this rule doesn't really come into play that much anymore. It only comes into play once you really get to the limit of knocking a unit that started with 60 guys back to below 20 guys. So you have to kill 41 guys out of this unit in order to get this rule even come into play, which is, I think, absurd. So it's supposed to be an army that doesn't have the best leadership all around, but then with this rule, you can just build your army around it, and just not ever have to face a discipline that's lower than discipline 10, which I think is absurd. So I would change this to add the number of full ranks up. That's fine, but I would just give them +1 discipline for every 2 ranks that you have after the first. So if you have like 6 to 15 models, you would add 1 discipline. If you have 16 to 25, you add 2 discipline. And if you have 26 to 35, you add 3 discipline. Just to make it a little bit more sensical, in my opinion. I wouldn't go further, because probably then you're gonna run into some trouble somewhere else. And never above 10. Yeah, 10 is still excessive, I would say, maybe, if you allow the army to have a BSB, because I thought that the Vermin Swarm was to have discipline as an army weakness. So maybe I would just still cap it at 9 instead of 10. Then Callius, I think, is fine, but the 3+ is quite generous. I would change this to a 4+, but not a lot of people use this anyway. I just feel like it's kind of weird that you hit your intended target in a mixed combat on a 3+. You have to be quite a good marksman to be able to shoot your target with a higher than 50% chance if everyone is swirling around so much. State of Trance, I think Fearless is not something that should be ubiquitous in the book, so probably these are only the units that are like Plague Monks and stuff. But then again, I don't know if Fearless is the right thing here. Brute's Courage, that's fine. Tagalong is fine, I think. Honorless, I think, should only apply if your character is in a unit. So if you only have a single character, kind of like a cowboy, that charges in, I would assume that he doesn't have any rank and file to hide behind or something. I think this is a fluff rule, and if you make a fluff rule, then please do it with the right definition of the fluff rule. I don't think Vermin Swarm should be the only army able to work around the fact that you can counter cowboys with a challenge of a champion, which is exactly what this rule currently does. Dark Shots, I never played against them, so I'm not gonna give my opinion. Plague Flail. The flail itself has been removed as a close combat weapon from the main rulebook, so there's no reason that Vermin Swarm should get a flail. And otherwise, Empire should get a flail, and Warriors of the Dark Gods should get a flail. These other weapons have been changed into great weapons, so this should just become a great weapon. No discussion there. And then in addition, at initiative 10, I think is really steep. I would just go for the initiative of the wielder, because then it's still potent enough. I mean, right now, if you charge a model with a Plague Flail, you first get this toxic hit at initiative 10, and then you get some hits at its initiative with +2 strength and +2 AP. So whether you have armor or not, you're not gonna survive this. The only thing that can make a shot at surviving this is something that is just incredibly cheap, because you bring the bodies, so zombies shouldn't really worry about this. But then again, the units that have this, they're gonna inflict more hits than they have attacks, so that kind of mitigates that weakness. Meat Grinder, I think, is fine. Sling is fine, Gas Globe's fine, Ratlock Pistol is fine. It's funny that it counts as paired weapon in close combat. Well, it's a pistol, Ratlock pistols. Jazales, yeah, they, in the Vermin Swarm book, I feel that there's like 3 or 4 rules that kind of give this fluff that if something goes wrong in the Vermin Swarm, it goes wrong badly for the Vermin Swarm itself, and it's like a high risk, high reward situation. But then the high risk is not really there if your unit just gets one hit with toxic attacks on a unit that doesn't have any armor save. So you might as well remove this rule if you try to be honest with yourself. I mean, so Jazales, they have 2 wounds each. You're gonna have a unit of 6 has 6 shots. You're gonna have 1 natural 1 to hit roll, maybe even 2. You're gonna get 1 or 2 toxic attacks. These are not even enough to cause a panic check on your unit. That only comes into play once you have only 2 Jazales left. And even then, you still have to have the 1 to hit, then a 4+2 wound, and then you can take a panic check. And you're not going to do a lot of damage to your own unit with this, because you have 2 wounds per model. So I would say that this should be just 1 hit with strength 6, AP 4. I mean, something goes wrong, right? The rotary gun, I think, is fine. The globe launcher is probably fine. The naphtha launcher, I don't think is fine. It is a volley gun, but the main rulebook dictates normally that volley guns just suffer from cover and hard target, which is one way to play around volley guns, especially when they're mobile. So this is a mobile volley gun that ignores 2 hit modifiers from cover and hard target, which is just excessive in my opinion. So you have 2d6 shots that always hit on 4+, unless you're more than 9 inches away, and they hit on 5+ against any target. That should be because it's like a flamethrower, but we have main rulebook rules for a flamethrower, so just use those if you want to be a flamethrower. So the reason why I'm saying that, what the difference is between a flamethrower and this thing, is that a flamethrower has the rule that you can only hit as many models as there are in your target unit. This thing can hit as many hits on 1 model as possible, so something like a giant, something like a dragon, something like any monster is really going to suffer from this, whilst the design shouldn't be. I don't believe it is particularly designed to take out monsters. So yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is really absurd in this way, because it's just a clear counter to monsters and the like, and also still to skirmishers that invest into getting a hard target and cover and stuff. That normally can only get hit by a flamethrower by getting like d6 hits, and here you have yeah, 2d6 shots with multiple wounds even. Tail weapon I think is fine. Lightning attack, I think this is just completely unnecessary because the models that get lightning attack are already quite strong themselves. You could say it's a fluffy rule, but then you could also just have this as the attack instead of having an attack and then getting lightning attack on top of it. Yeah, if that was the case, then I would be fine by it. Or you can do something like with the cluster munitions of the Infernal Dwarves, where it jumps to another unit. But then I would go for D6 strength 3 probably, or D3 strength 3, just as a minor fluffy rule. But this is D6 strength 4 is just going to do some wounds to even a greater demon, which is excessive. The Awakened Swarm I think is fine. Like here, this is one that I like in terms of design because there is actual risk involved here. So on average, you will not kill your character because you will only get 2 wounds over the course of the game, and the mileage you get out of the weapon is quite big. But then again, yeah, there is a reasonable chance that you end up paying the price for this. Putrid Protection is, I think, a really weird item to be included in any book. It's a light armor enchantment that gives +2 armor. Those are really rare. The only thing that I can think of is Essence of Mithril, which gives you just a 2 armor save without any other special rules, and it's only possible to use it with standard size, I believe. So Putrid Protection should either follow just the same kind of design to be able to only enchant models on standard size, or you should not get the +2 armor. I think this is excessive on light armor. And it's especially punishing on models that have a high wound pool, that have an Aegis save, that have high resilience, that are going to get a lot of hits, and they're going to make a lot of armor saves. So I would say that this should not be possible on such models. Otherwise, I think the no flying movement on the lightning rod is a little bit excessive, and I would like to see it diminished to half the flying movement, because that is also quite punishing, but just doesn't prevent charges to the same extent. Then we go to the Vermin Demon. So the Vermin Demon is a model that I think breaks multiple rules. So it is a gigantic beast. Normally gigantic beasts, you can not reliably deal with them with infantry because they have Thunderstomp. You cannot really deal with them with single models yourself, because something like a Vermin Demon just strikes really hard for that. You can normally deal with them with magic, but then this one has 4 Aegis against magical attacks, which is quite extreme. You can deal with him through cannons, and this one, yeah, he has an Aegis 5 up, so that is still quite decent against cannons. But even though, yeah, cannons are going to be something bad for him. But then again, if you have one cannon, it's going to take the entire game to kill it off, because it doesn't have flying, so you don't get the clipped wings. Well, normally, the best way I feel like to beat gigantic models is just through combat resolution with cavalry. So if you have a charge with a banner with possibly a BSB or some other way of getting an extra combat res, you go in with a couple of combat res, you can challenge him out, you make some armor saves, he's gonna miss you a couple of times, so you end up winning by 2 or something, and then you might run him down, or in this case he is supernal, so he doesn't care too much about that, so he's just gonna get 2 wounds. Were it not for the fact that this guy has AP 10. I don't know why they gave him AP 10 and not something like AP 4 if he is supposedly good at having AP. I mean, the main rulebook, the Arcane Companion, contains Shieldbreaker. Shieldbreaker enchants your weapon to give it AP 6 for 35 points, which is quite a good deal. but then again, you're capped at only wounding on 3+, and this model doesn't have any of these downsides. So I think something went wrong there. Basically, one of the ways in which you can deal with this has been taken away. Then you could lock it in place with infantry, were it only not so incredibly fast for a gigantic model. So most gigantic models, I don't recall any of them having an advance of 8 and a march of 16. I believe they're normally capped at advance 7 and march 14, but I might be wrong here. I know the Wasteland Beam of Warriors of the Dark Gods has march 20, but that thing also has a huge base, so it's way more difficult to hide this. And he only has 5 attacks at offensive 3 instead of offensive 8, with defensive 3 instead of 8. Yeah, so this defensive and offensive is also extremely high. The strength and resilience are high. The discipline is something else that we should talk about, because it is supposedly an army that has a weakness in terms of discipline. Well, no longer with the Vermin Demon giving you an 18-inch discipline 9 bubble that you can still stack with safety and numbers. So I would say that the Vermin Demon just goes to discipline 8 and gets not a leader, so that he cannot be a general. It's just an easy fix. You can even keep your discipline 9 if you want, just give him another leader. So I would tone down the AP, give him another leader, and then I think for the 850 points it's a good deal. It's a reasonable deal in terms of what he does for the army. And this is another rule that's just I don't know why they gave him this rule. I mean, you can just get another wizard, and then from divination you get your extra range, right? Why does it have to get this for free? The Tyrant, I think, is fine. The Chief, I think, is fine. You still have some decent options here. Oh, I forgot. I know it's later. The Magister is fine, I think. The Rakachet Machinist is fine. Sakara Assassin is fine, I think. Yeah. The Plague Patriarch, I think, is not really that fine, just because of putrid protection. And also because of the combination of hatred and battle focus. I believe it has been declared by the rules team that this should be an extremely rare case within the game, because basically you circumvented 2-hit roll altogether. Because with like a 4+ to hit with battle focus and hatred, you're gonna get an equal amount of hits as you have attacks, and if you have a 3+ to hit, it becomes even more impressive. If you have a 5+ to hit, it's a little bit toned down, but still you hit any target as if you just hit them on 3+. So this is insane. I would just remove one of the two. Then it is Plague Flail we talked about. The character mounts, I believe this is an army that is not supposed to be focused on having good armor on big models. So I would just say that this becomes C+1, this becomes C+1, and the Doombell also gets C+1. So these two towers are the things that I talked about before, with the putrid protection, where also with the Magister and with the Plague Priest you can get a 2-up armor save eventually on a model that has 5 wounds with resilience 5 with an Aegis 4 up, and for every armor save that you make you get a toxic hit on your attacker. That is over the top, I would say. So I would just make this C+1 and give the putrid protection also +1 armor, so you get to a 4-up armor save, which is still decent. And it can still do some damage, but it's not as extreme as it is currently. Then I would remove the Stubborn from this piece and give it Stubborn when it is in a unit of Plague Brotherhood, because Vermin Swarm is all about safety in numbers. So if you're all alone defending your army from some imminent threat, I don't think it's suitable for Vermin Swarm to have one of these incredible mounts to be stubborn. I think that is really really bad. Yeah. We have the battle focus and the hatred again. I would remove one of those. Yeah. And then the grind attacks, I don't know why this thing has such a high damage output. I mean, normally impact hits, they are kind of maxed out at d6 plus 1 hit. And grind attacks, I think this represents the red ogre on top. d6 plus 2 hits with is extremely high. I would rather go to d3 plus 1. And then, yeah, the crew, they already bring 8 attacks at that strength 3 with battle focus and hatred, so it still hits hard enough. Then Doom Bell, same here with the armor. I just want to point out that the Doom Bell also just ignores the main rulebook just by doing this, and for some reason he also gets extra range. Oh, and it also has, so normally Wizard War platforms have channel 1, this one has channel 2, I don't know why. Core I think is fine, Vermin God is fine, Plague Brotherhood is fine except for the fact that they have hatred and battle focus, which should be rare. So that's here it's on a core unit. I mean, please no. Okay, footpad's fine. So special, this is fine I think. The Plague Disciples I think are not fine. I mean, the hatred and the battle focus together should be one of the two. The Plague Flail should be a great weapon, and the hit at agility 10 should be a hit at agility 4. And you can remove hard target because they don't skirmish. Vermin Hulks. Vermin Hulks are good value for money. I mean, you get 4 models for 300 points, and they have Strength 5, Resilience 5, and Agility 4. That is already extremely good. And then, yeah, this NAFTA launcher is insane, especially for the points. I mean, 100 points sounds steep, but I am still going to play with my Zombie Dragon against 2 of these. I am sure that this NAFTA launcher can comfortably put 2 wounds around on my Zombie Dragon, and the Zombie Dragon is 1100 points, so yeah, that feels really weird. Yeah, and if you compare this profile just to any other standard or large infantry in other books, then the combination of having and battle focus and agility 4 and strength 5 and resilience 5 is really big, in addition with Swift Reform. And for some reason fearless. I don't know why these guys get fearless. I mean, they're rats, right? Big rats. Why would big rats suddenly be fearless? Rat swarms are also fearless. Yeah, that's because it's a swarm probably. But I thought this was an army that had some leadership issues. It's supposed to have some leadership issues. You can build a fearless army with Vermin Swarm, which is not what I would think should be the case. I like the tiny rule. Just in general, I just think that the Advance 6 and March 12 is a little bit steep, and it should go to March 10. You can still keep the Advance 6 if you want. March 12 is just a little bit steep for my standards. Meat Grinder, I thought this was an army that didn't focus too much on armor, so I would bring it to armor 3 without the heavy armor and have just like 4 HP. Gutter Blades, I think, are fine. Quite cheap, actually. Oh, okay, 5 models. It's not. Yeah. Then we have the weapon teams. I never see weapon teams, but they seem quite fine with the 4 Abegas that they have. So maybe it's the HP that keeps people from taking those too much. Giselles, so they should get more punishing hits when they hit themselves, I would say. Grenadiers are fine. Verminous artillery. This is really a creative way of dodging the main rulebook here. So you have a catapult 4x4. So this is gonna hit on a 4+ normally, and it's gonna hit on a 5 at long range. So that's outside of 24 inches because you have a short range of 24 inches, which is quite impressive. And you have a shot with toxic attacks, so that means that the reroll on your catapult only decreases in size, and it doesn't decrease in strength as normal artillery weapons do, and it does have AB 10. So if you manage to do 1 hit with this thing on any knight unit in the game, you're gonna completely mess up your opponent's unit, which is excessive, I would say. So I would say that either the range goes down to 36 inches, so you have a bit more struggle to hit, or you just blatantly go to a 5-up to hit with accurate, possibly, just to make it a little bit less reliable in hitting. The lightning cannon, nobody takes these because the play catapult is just so incredibly good. You can only have two. So I would say that lightning cannon still looks appealing. I would remove lightning attack because you're already doing D3+1 multiple wounds with clipped wings. So you're already doing D3 plus 2 against flying. You already have a bonus against flying, so you don't need another D6+1 hits. And please don't mention the fact that it's supposed to be fluff, because fluff you can use that as any excuse for any argument you make. So please don't. And then this is one of the other ways in which the Vermin Swarm book punishes you for courageous play and for taking risks. So if your shot has been supercharged and you roll a 1 or a 2 afterwards, so only 1/3 of the time, you cannot do that again anymore for the game. Oh, that is so sad. Like in previous iterations of Vermin Swarm, you would get a shot at maximum strength in a random direction, possibly over your entire army. That is just to put it into perspective. This is nothing. Nobody's not going to supercharge this thing if they need it. And sure, the difference between strength 7 and strength 10 is not that influential in most cases, but the cases where it is, they should really give you a big negative effect if something goes wrong. Yeah, the big topic in the room. So Treadmill, yeah, once again, look, it's fearless. Maybe the rats are too distracted by everything that's going on that they don't notice that they're in the middle of the battlefield. If that is your fluff around this, then they are also too distracted to use the thing. So it has HP 5 with armor 3 and the resilience of 5, which is really sturdy. Jesus, really sturdy. So even, especially compared to alternative chariots out there, this is just one of the sturdiest chariots that you will see. And then if you compare it to just a general chariot that's a little bit more than 200 points, you get the same kind of defensive stat line more or less, and offensively you're gonna do a little bit different, but then you pay just like 220, 240 points for the chariot. This one for 100 points gets its shooting weapon basically, and the shooting weapon is just brutal because you can use it with 4-up aim, quick to fire, accurate reload. This is what you also get on the hunting chariot. The hunting chariot doesn't have the defensive profile of this thing, however, and the hunting chariot cannot do anything in combat basically. So this is quite nice. 3 shots. You hit on a 4 blast here, you're nearly guaranteed to have at least 1 hit. Whilst with a hunting chariot, which is in an elven army, and elves are supposed to be reliable, it only has 1 shot that hits on a 3+, so you have 1/3 chance of not getting any hits at all. So this thing is way more reliable in getting hits. And then once you get a hit, you can supercharge it to strength 6. And that's only if you're within 12 inches, sure. But any target that you don't manage to kill off with a Treadmill, you can just kill it off in combat at agility 4. That is kind of like the same agility as a lot of monsters fight at once they charge. So I think with this electric discharge, it's funny that these rats, they don't notice what's going around them. But they do manage to do this attack at their own agility, which is something that should not be connected to the profile of the rats at all, right? So they should go to like agility 1 or something, maybe, possibly. Yeah, and then in combat you hit even better. I have no clue why, and I have no clue why this is universal for any target in the game. So even if you invest, once again, even if you invest in some loadout that has been given to you by the rules and according to the main rulebook, this thing just ignores all of these rules and you just get 3+ hits with AP10. So AP10 is something that I would reserve for toxic attacks, just because then there's the balance of having low strength but a high AP. If you have strength 5 and AP10, you have nothing to worry about in the game anymore. And again, this lightning attack. So just for those that I didn't convince, please think of any unit that has the similar mobility as a Doom Wheel, that is the similar amount of points as a Doom Wheel, that is gonna win from this thing in a 1-to-1 matchup. And then afterwards you can consider the fact that this one is in an army and you can just easily protect it and still make use of the 18-inch shooting attack. Yeah, this is just insane. If it had been on a chassis that is way more vulnerable than this, then it would have been fine. This combined package is just a really good sweet spot in the rules, and I think it should not be present in such a reliable way. The Abomination I rarely find. It's the same points as a Treadmill, more or less, but for some reason everyone seems to take the Treadmill, nobody seems to take the Abomination, whilst the Abomination still looks to be quite good with the 3d6 attacks at strength 6 with AP3. This is what normal books get, guys. This is just normal. Well, this is actually quite extreme already, because you can get like more than 10 attacks with a 330 point model. If you compare this to a War Hydra, then the War Hydra has a bit higher offensive and defensive. It has only 5 wounds. It is controllable in its move, that is true, but it's not stubborn, it's not fearless, and it doesn't have strength 6. It does have some armor, but yeah. And then the War Hydra is 440 points. I mean, that's 110 points more than this thing. This is some really good monster in any other army, but you never see it on the battlefield just because the Treadmill is so extremely good. And if you don't agree with that, then please take Abominations just to and stay away from Treadmills, because you don't need them anyway, right? They suck. Yeah, so that is my take on the Vermin Swarm Army book. I just don't like the way that they circumvent quite a lot of the main rulebook rules. It was mostly a negative kind of video, this one, I think. So I would hope that it's not being taken as a video that is just complaining about the Vermin Swarm Army book. I still think that they deserve a good place amongst the playable races, but I would appreciate it more if the focus in the army was more about the infantry itself doing the work, just having some core units that are just a little bit better probably, but not in this extremely polarized way that you currently have. So I think the changes that I would propose, they make the matchups against normally constructed armies a little bit more tolerable and feel like your opponent is cheating less. Yeah, so it might have been a little bit of an extreme video, but I said it before, I really don't like the Vermin Swarm Army. Just please give me your opinions on what you think are the places where the Vermin Swarm Army book should change. And also, if you don't agree with me at all, please give me some feedback in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you the next time.